And one, we are live. Hello and welcome to PropTechBuzz podcast. I'm thrilled to have with me a special guest today. His name is Sam Debord. I do not have to introduce him anyways because he's known in the circle. He's known in the global PropTech real estate ecosystem anyways. But I'll do the formal intro anyways. So Sam is the CEO of the Real Estate Standards Organization. He's the author of Working with Real Estate Data, Organized Real Estate's premium technology course for onboarding and professional development. Sam has served as President's liaison for MLS and data management with the National Association of Realtors. And he has been a management consultant for PricewaterhouseCoopers, managing broker for Coldwell Banker Danforth, a mentor for NAR Reach, and a board director of Association MLS and venture fund organizations. And you know what? For anybody who is not in the US, especially who's building this community, even though our community is also in the US, I have always struggled to understand what RESO is all about. And I have been longing to have Sam on my podcast to break it down, to dumb it down for that audience that is still not familiar about RESO. And that's why I approached Sam, and he was very kind to agree to be on my podcast. So let's welcome Sam. Sam, welcome to PropTech Buzz. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Ravi. Thank you for having me. I've seen the show and some of the great guests you have, so it's exciting for me to be here.
Thank you, Sam. And as I was mentioning, there are so many common connections. Almost everybody that I talk to keeps mentioning about RESO, but I also know for the fact that a large chunk of the global audience is not aware of RESO. And that's why we are here to demystify what it is. So you have to dumb it down, even though you have been in this industry for long, you will have to repeat a lot of these foundational and fundamental stuff for that kind of an audience. So, Sam, what is the place for RESO in the global real estate? Could you break this out in plain language and the impact of RESO in real estate?
Sure. So what we do is data standards. It's a universal language for technology. I think the easiest way to think about it is not in real estate, but just general technology. You can go to any country in the world, buy a set of headphones, a mobile phone, work in a car, and you're using Wi-Fi, you're using Bluetooth. These are international standards. They're just technical languages to allow systems to talk to each other. And even if competitors don't want, they want to put each other out of business, Apple still works with Samsung, still works with a Tesla car, still works with any other technology, because they all agree if we all use Bluetooth, if we all use Wi-Fi, we can use these open standards and connect, and we all have better technology. So that's what RESO does. We have a data dictionary and we have a web API standard. And those are just the ways to format your data, your information, your property listings and records, and ways to transmit or transport that data between systems. And if you use RESO standards for that, which folks in the US started RESO, but it's an international standard, it's being used in a lot of countries now, all these systems can talk to each other. And whatever local language you use, it's later on top of that. So your applications and your reports can be in whatever local language that your customers need, but underneath there is that universal language that makes sure, like Bluetooth, any system can connect to any other system. So we bring together hundreds and hundreds of companies from across the world to agree on those standards so that they can all make those systems work together across different markets.
Got it. Excellent. That couldn't have been a better simplified answer to that. What is the kind of reception? How many companies do follow RESO standard data practices? What's the adoption like?
Sure. So in the US, we started about 20 years ago with a
Wow.
very straightforward standard called RETS, and that was very successful for a lot of years. About 10 years ago, we became an independent organization, an independent standards body. So at this point, we have about 95% of the MLSs in the US certified. So we don't just create standards. We also have technical certification systems where we run through the API of each of these systems and pull up property records and say, do these match the standard? Do they follow the rules? So the US is somewhat unique because it has 500 MLS organizations. So there's a real need for that connection through standards so they can talk to each other So the US is basically on the RESO standard for organized real estate. Canada's been coming on board for the past few years. They're using it at the national level. The Canadian Real Estate Association has a national service called the DDF, which is basically taking all the separate boards and MLS's listings, bringing them together into one service, and then being able to send that out to other organizations. So they're using RESO standards as well. They did have, and they do have, a Canadian national data standard, but seeing the need for an international standard for the work that they do, because a lot of our brokers work across borders. They refer business, they sell property, they may be licensed, they may be citizens of multiple countries. That cross-border business is important. Up until a couple of years ago, we were mostly that North American focus. It was the US getting that right, Canada expanding that work. But at this point, when we've got basically the whole MLS marketplace in the US certified on RESO standards, we've had a lot of inbound traffic now from other countries, people seeing that this works. It's proven, it works in the marketplace. We do public reports for what these data sets look like from each organization. And so we've got member organizations now from about 20 countries who are part of RESO. We held an international MLS forum in Paris in December, just a few months ago. We had representatives from 33 countries join that event. And we've worked with CEPI, which is the European trade organization for real estate professions, on building those connections. So while the global side of it is fairly new in terms of just a few years, the uptake has actually been very fast. We're expanding quickly and getting, frankly, that inbound traffic, the invites to come explain what we do and why it can help not just organize data within a country, but allow them those opportunities internationally to go across markets and across borders.
Got it. And you have been traveling outside North America also quite a bit lately. I think the adoption in the Europe and France. I think you were also in Paris some time ago, right? And now you are going to be in Ghana. So are you seeing more and more countries waking up to the realization of standards?
We are, and I think some countries actually have an advantage of getting on board later because the way we built a lot of our technology in the US was very proprietary. At the time, it was 900 to 1,000 different markets, building systems, and then we had to standardize to make those work. Countries that are just starting MLS systems today or new PropTech environments in their countries can start with standards, so they don't have to rework those systems later. So if they build the foundation now, where lots of countries are looking at building MLS systems and they start with standards as the foundation, that just gives them an advantage early on in terms of the development work. And frankly, the ability to have other innovative companies come into their marketplace and serve them with new technology because they know how to build it on the standards already. So yes, we've gotten invites for an event in Ghana. We're going to have another forum in Milan coming up this year in Italy. So there's a lot of interest in moving this forward.
Excellent. And as part of PropTechBuzz, we are a community of global PropTech leaders on our platform. And new PropTech founders spring up from places that we had not imagined before. Did you know that there is a thriving PropTech ecosystem from Baghdad, Iraq? There is a thriving PropTech ecosystem in Vietnam. So they're all joining our platform. So if somewhere to start or wake up to the reality of RESO, are you moving one country at a time, or anybody can join in and adopt RESO standards? How does it work out? Like if somebody from Iraq wants to learn about RESO, can they just reach out to you and adopt? How does it work?
Really, anyone can get started. And frankly, a lot of what we have is available and it's free. We're an open standards body. So we produce the specifications, which are just the rules for how to use standards, and we put them on our website at reso.org. Any organization can use that. So we get calls from, for example, a company in the Czech Republic who was starting to build an MLS, and they were building it on the RESO data dictionary. We'd never heard of this company before, but the documentation was there, so they could start building on something that they trusted was going to work and be used elsewhere. Now, of course, a lot of companies would like to be more involved at RESO because you can talk to the other experts in the space, go to the meetings, improve the standard, add what you need for your country, because there will be idiosyncrasies in different countries, different property types, different kinds of listings. And we can always add those to the dictionary to support different countries. So that's why we've got different countries using different parts of the dictionary, but they can all come on board at the same time, because there's no limitation. You can get started at any point that you want, depending on what your PropTech community is needing at the moment.
Got it. I read this statement from one of your blogs. It was not made by you, but one of your guests in a conference, I think. And he said, I have to assume that there is a plenty of innovation that does not happen because of underlying data issues, either because a team has to devote a ton of resources to solving these problems that should not be there in the first place, or a team might say, hey, this is just not worth the brain damage. So are you looking at a lot of PropTech innovations are happening across the globe, right? So are you saying that if they take help of RESO standards, a lot of these data issues will be resolved, and then they will be able to devote their mind share in actually solving core core use cases than trying to manage these data interoperability issues?
That's really the underlying goal. We say at the beginning of every meeting, RESO strives to increase competition in the marketplace. And to do that, we need the new, young, innovative PropTech companies to not just build good products, but to get business and to survive and to bring that innovation to new markets. So you can imagine, even in the US, when a tech company gets started in one marketplace and they build a product for a broker or an MLS and it works, that's a great starting point. But now they've got to learn all the differences for every other market out there. And if the data sets are not built on standards, those companies get a lot of their money burnt up. They've only got so much runway as a startup company. A lot of it gets eaten up just on mundane things like mapping data. And it's the same data. It's the same fields, except that they're not named correctly and they're not mapped to the RESO standards. So when they are mapped to RESO standards, and when these PropTech companies start by building their tech on standards, they scale much more quickly across customers, which is really the goal, is for those PropTech companies to get successful and for us to have a lot more availability and choice in products out there.
Excellent. Also on your website, when we go to your website, it clearly talks about 3 segments. It says, new to RESO, start here, MLSs, brokers, technology partners. Could you break that up for us? Or what are these segments and why are they relevant to RESO?
Sure. MLSs is really where we got started. Those were the big aggregators in the US. They held the data. They were the ones that brokers needed access to and vendors needed access to. So that was the important place to get started with creating a standard, so that you could use MLS data from any marketplace and integrate it into a tech product. Brokers, obviously, as those customers, are the ones hiring the tech vendors to build their own products, the comparative market analysis products, the websites, the lead generation tools, the CRMs. And so those two companies, those 2 kinds of companies, are a lot of times downstream from the MLS data, but they've got the same needs. They're actually the greatest beneficiaries of standards, because once the MLSs adopt those standards, then the brokers have access to more tools and the technology vendors can build tools faster, and be more successful with them. So there's a little different approach, with a lot of times the MLS being the data producer, and these other, obviously the software companies that serve MLSs being the data producers as well, but then the brokers and the technology vendors downstream being those data consumers, getting the benefits of what standards bring to the market.
Got it. Moving on, I listened to your talk, and I think I was also complimenting you. One of the better speakers, especially when you talked about the story of your family got into a health emergency in New York. That was such a nice story, and you compared it with data standards. You mentioned in the talk about how transparent marketplaces move inventory. That was lovely. Could you summarize that for the audience who have not listened to that speech of yours?
Yeah, I think one of the ways we compare some of what we do, it's different than a stock market, but there are similarities. And we all kind of know stock markets. They've got a lot of rules. Most of those are propagated by government agencies, but they're there to make it a trusted marketplace. The people who are selling need to get a license, so we know that they're reputable brokers of whatever inventory you have in the market, in a stock market. You've got licenses and rules about what kinds of products that you can sell. So we don't have shady products in a stock market. We've got things that have real backup. And then the information that you share about those products has to be up to a standard, has to be honest, has to be transparent. And there are rules making bodies that regulate that. When you have all those things, consumers can actually trust the market. They actually believe that if they decide to transact, they know the inventory's there. They know they've got access to broad inventory. They know that rules are being followed. So what they say they want to buy will be the thing that's advertised correctly and the purchase will go through. So when they trust that, they transact more. They're willing to because they're confident they're not going to lose their money. They're able to make those transactions happen at a faster rate. And you see that across the market, whether it's an MLS marketplace or whether it's a stock market. People transact more often when they trust the system, when they see transparent information backed up by rules. And so we see that MLS has absolutely increased transaction volume in a real estate marketplace like well-regulated stock markets do, because that transparency is trust from the rule makers and from the people who benefit from those rules.
Excellent. I would like to end with pouring into the future, gazing into the crystal ball, as they say. So with your extensive experience of leading this mission, where do you see the future of data standards in PropTech in the next, say, 2 or 3 years?
Well, I think we'll certainly see a lot more international expansion. If you look at some of the new members that you see on our website, they're coming from parts of the world that we haven't even done a lot of outreach in yet, because they're seeing we're building something new. Let's start foundationally. We started talking to a company from Sweden this week that, again, was using the data dictionary to map this new product they were building, and we had never met this company before. So we'll see an expansion of that. Really, the hope long term is that most people don't really need to know about the data standards. The technology implementers will do this. They will use it as a foundation for what they build. And then the brokers, the agents, the consumers, the purchasers of technology will just have products that work. Of course, they should have a RESO certified badge on those products, because that allows that trust. It allows that transparency, because there'll be reports on RESO's website that say this company was certified on this standard, and here's what the data set looks like that was standardized. So again, with that on an international level, we can provide that trust really across borders, because it has very little to do with the country that you're in and everything to do with the actual technology that folks can see is being used worldwide and is trusted by other technology companies.
Thank you. For the listeners who might be listening to this and who would want to explore RESO standards, what is the best thing to do for them?
Look at reso.org. We have all of our products, all of our standards products there available for you to see. You can dig deep if you want to get into the technical specifications, or you can stay high if you just want to watch some of the videos from our conferences. You can get involved coming to our events. Our conferences are in person a couple of times a year here in the US, but again, we'll have an international forum in Milan coming up this fall as well. Or just reach out. My email is sam@reso.org. And you can shoot me an email and I can direct you to the right people to talk to who are in the same kind of market you're in, building the same kinds of products that you're building, and give you the ability to talk to the subject matter experts who have been through this process.
Thank you, Sam, for taking time out and sharing your wealth of wisdom. Much appreciated for this.
It was great being with you, Ravi. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Sam.
Bye.